Let's give Joe Bailey another hand. For those of you who may not know, this is Peter Bailey's youngest son from Richmond, Virginia. I'm Ibrahim Mukman, and I'm going to try and help out with the program as we move along today. Let's pause and say prayer. With the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, praise be to God, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and who go not astray. Amen. All right. We're going to go, most of you, I believe, we had enough copies of a printed program. We're going to pretty much follow the program. There'll be a couple of things that we'll add. We're going to ask Brother Nana Kwabena, who's an activist, a legend in this town, and has always helped us with libations to make us remember where we came from. Brother Kwabena.
My greetings and salutations to all. It's my honor and my privilege to be here. When Brother Jawara called me, I said, yes, call me. It's an honor and a privilege. The Hajj Malik al-Shabazz was my hero. And I'm not necessarily procrastinating, I was young. I said, this is the man out of the house. Me and the great procrastinator, Pisces in the house. When I made up my mind, I think that following weekend thank you so much. That following weekend, of course, his life was taken. So he's been someone who I've admired most of my adult life. So it's an honor for me to be here. Libation is the pouring of liquid substance. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, so forgive me, but I'm just going to just say something. Libation is the pouring of liquid substance as we're praying. There's not any religion I know that does not do libation. You just got to catch them at the right time, and you see that they're pouring liquid substance on the ground in honor of God Almighty, the ancestors, the deities, the Neteru, however you want to relate to them. And so it's my honor to be able to do that here today. I'm not going to use the time to talk too much about myself. Senghor has known me, I guess, close to 50 years, I'm sure. Yeah. I was in my 30s, so it was 50 years ago. But I am the chief priest of the Temple of Inyame of Washington, D.C., in the Surgery Shrine of Washington, D.C. And we have three things that we're based upon: liberation theology, rites of passage, and spiritual initiation, moving towards God by whatever name you call God. That's what we do. And so that's the spirit I come to you with today, and if you want to know more about me, just type my name into the computer. It'll Kwabena Brown, it'll come up, or Temple of Inyame, it'll come up. And so I'll just shorten and say it's my honor to be here today. So I come to you in the name of God Almighty, in the name of my ancestors, and all those who have come before me. This I pray, amen. All right, so when I say I'll go, what are you going to say? Amen. Oh, I'm telling you. And then I'm going to call, I've got to call my own ancestor. I got to call my mom. All right, yeah, that's my mom. I still call her, I'm 81, I still refer to her as mommy. Can you believe that? So I'll call my mom, and then I'll say some time for Brother Jawara and Sister Murphy and Brother Wheatley, who's here, people who I know really closely, Senghor, all those I know and don't know. It's an opportunity for you to call your ancestors and call them and ask them to carry you through whatever's happening in your family. And Lord knows whatever's happening presently in the world. And we got some strong ones here to call upon. Our own lifeblood, and our Francis Cress Wilsons, our Pat Newtons. We have a lot of really strong ancestors whose power and strength that we need right now. And they're just sitting back saying, okay, waiting for them to call me and ask for my help. And we have to really make sure that we do that to fight what's happening now in this country. Okay, so with that introduction, I will start with libation. Libation is not a, for me, it's always real. I don't do play libation. So we call upon God. I'll stop, and you can, after I stop, then you call the name of your mom. I don't know if your mom's not here. I'll go. On Yom Kippur, Kwame Pony Suo. Asaseya, Asaseya, through a mother earth from whom God made our bodies. We call your power, we call spirit. I call my mother Ida Mae Isaac. I call her great uncle, George Alexander McGuire. I call all of my ancestors. I want to hear your ancestors' names. As we call one, we call all. We will never forget you. We will always remember you. We know that you just wait with your arms closed, waiting for us just to ask for help. And wondering how come we don't. So we call them to you now. We ask to bring peace within our families, healing within our families. We ask above all things that through the trials and tribulations which are being engineered for us at this particular point in time, we've been through it before. And we call upon your ancestors to do it again. We call upon the Prince of Anacostia. How many people here know about Anacostia? Oh, you gotta come, that's Anacostia. That's the home of Freddie D. Frederick Douglass. We call you Frederick Douglass, we call your power, we call your spirit, we call your determination to lift our people up. We call Elijah Muhammad, Noble Jew Ali. We call all, we call all, we call all. We call Marion Barry. We call all, we call all. We call General Tariq. All of our local heroes and sheroes, we call you. Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, we call all. And we call you to honor the one who we, by all means, did honor today. The Hajj al-Sadiq Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. And we ask that not only do we call your name, but we think about you, we study you, we read about you, we see what you did, what you said. And we grasp that spirit, we grasp that energy, and we do something. And we do something. So bless us, bless us, bless us with peace, long life, liberty, freedom, justice, El Hajj, we call you today that we may have your power and spirit inspiring us. So we give honor to you today on your 100th birthday. Good Lord, that's unbelievable. And may you, by all means, influence us from the spiritual world. We say, Enti and Soul, Jinayachi, stand behind our backs. No Yadawasi, we thank you. The God's name is Amen. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
Let's give him a hand. We are grateful because too often in our culture, people trace our history to slavery. And we had a great and glorious history before we were brought to this country. I'm going to now bring up the leader who's here on campus, Dr. Greg Carr. And you should know that but for his help, this program would not take place today. Let's give Greg a hand. When we first talked to some people about doing the program here, they said, well, you know, I think graduation is already taking place, and many students are going home and whatever. But we kept insisting. And Greg knows my story that back in 1969, I had the pleasure of getting locked up in here at Howard University. And because one of the things that we were trying to do was make Howard relevant to the community. And we said, Howard University, the Mecca, has all these resources, you know, the medical school, the dental school, the school of social work, school of architecture and engineering, the law school. There should be clinics helping poor black people in LaDroit Park and Shaw and Pleasant Plains. And Greg Carr, Dr. Greg Carr, has imbued that spirit and it helps to push the university to living up to that thing. So Greg, please come on up and say something to us. You're welcome.
Good to see you, man. Made it back. Good evening, everyone. I'll put this one back here. While I put that microphone down, thank our people from Cornerstone who made sure everything was here in San Corporation School. Let's get up. Dr. Peter Bailey, on behalf of all the other elders, may we continue. Is that all right to keep going? Appreciate you. Yes, sir. I'm gonna keep this very brief. Bobby Ibrahim, I would be loath to ever disagree with you, but I would say that if it weren't for y'all, I wouldn't have a job. Dr. Myers wouldn't have a job. There would be no Department of Afro-American Studies. So I think the correct thing to say is if it weren't for y'all, we wouldn't be here. So I want to thank you. On behalf of the Department of Afro-American Studies, which continues to fight here, we have not changed the name because that name remarks that moment in time. The discipline is known by many different names, Africana, Black, but Afro-American Studies is what the students who willed that into existence called it, and so we won't be changing that name. It has become very chic to be black these days. It has been neutered, spayed, it's been watered down. Some people might say we've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, led astray, however, but we are here. And on behalf of our little unit, we offer our real thanks and gratitude to the committee. Baba Jawara has been carrying out with the committee the orders of Baba Peter, who has a very, very specific vision in mind for tonight. And we're going to see it unfold because it's coming from the community. We are blessed to have everyone here. I think it's, Dr. Myers, you'll correct me, I think it was 64 years ago. 64 years ago, this November, of course, Malcolm X was on this campus debating Bayard Rustin of Houston. Anybody here who was there that night? Thank you, Nana. I never assume that there isn't somebody in the room who was there, because that's how we get down. And as I said, we are blessed to have you here, especially now, when our black institutions are under assault. We saw the clown governor of Florida take a direct assault on Florida Agricultural and Mechanical a couple of days ago, putting in place one of his hand-picked stooges after he staffed the Board of Trustees with hand-picked stooges. And FAM is not the only one in the bullseye. The proposal in the Trump budget is to cut Howard's appropriation by somewhere north of $60 million. But we know that these universities are simply buildings and lights, and places for students to sleep, and places for folk to get a few pennies to help teach them and sit with them, but that the true learning enterprise is here. And so, as I take my seat, I want to really just take a moment to sit with you, or stand here for me and sit with the fact that Malcolm X, as remarkable as he is as an individual, is a product of black institutions. And if he were here with us physically, we know that the thing that we could say to him physically, that we will say to him tonight over and over again, is how much we love him, because it wasn't that he was a perfect human being. There's no such thing. But he loved us. And that love, and the price he paid for that love, requires us to force this institution, every black college, every learning institution, whether it be Howard or Harvard, where he debated, where my niece, Kosianelli's going out to law school this fall after she finished her first degree here at Howard. Well, I guess her second degree. She got one in Texas before she came in. But it doesn't matter. Howard, Harvard, FAM, University of Florida, Georgetown, University of Maryland, they're all the same when it comes down to the fact that these are just places for us to take the resources back to the place that sent us here to do their business, and that's the people. So thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you, Bob.
Yeah, we are blessed to have Greg Carr here, because he does so much in terms of on campus, and I think Greg has is a podcast, or I'm not sure all the stuff that he's doing. Okay. Anyway, and we are happy that all of you are here today. On behalf of the Positive Black Folks in Action and our leader, Peter Bailey, I want to welcome you here, because you know that we're in a culture now that is going backwards. And let me, in terms of how we treat black people, my wife and I, we were in Columbus, Georgia over the weekend. I was attending Peter my 60th high school reunion. And as I drove down 185, where's Greg? Greg knows 185, he's a Georgia boy. I couldn't help but have a flashback, because in 1963, I got locked up there trying to go to an all-white library. And for those of you who are students of history or just ordinary people, you know that 1963 was 9 years after Brown versus Board of Education. So I should not have been barred from going to the library that day. This is July 5th, 1963. And so I was taken by the Muscogee County Police downtown to the jail and interrogated, and what they said to me, Tawara, is, young man, you shouldn't go to the Bradley Library, because that's for white people. We have a library on 4th Avenue for Negroes. And he said, you are breaking the law. I'm 15 years old in the 10th grade. I said, sir, I'm not breaking the law. You're breaking the law. Because the Constitution of the United States says the Supreme Court determines that the laws here in Georgia are out of step, and that segregation as a result of Brown versus Board of Education, led by Thurgood Marshall, a Howard alum, said it's unconstitutional. And he turned red because he couldn't imagine a 15-year-old telling him that. But God has blessed me, and I'm glad that we have some young people here today so that you know what we have to do. And we are celebrating today, but this is a party with a purpose, okay? All of us here today, we want to recommit ourselves to what we're doing and taking what Malcolm taught us to move forward. I want to share, I've been recently talking to high school students, and one of the students at my old school, Spencer High School, said, how did I resolve the conflict after I learned about the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution? And I said, it's easy, because once they made us stand up in Ethelyn Coleman's classroom and recite portions of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And he said, how did you resolve it? And I said, I want to share what my thought was. Now, many of you may not, in the back, may not, in the auditorium, may not be able to see this, but I said hypocrite. And it's a hypocrite because 3 weeks ago, my wife and I were in Charlottesville, Virginia. We went to see Monticello. And for those who don't know, Monticello is the home of Jefferson, one of I think the author of the Declaration of Independence. And I wanted to see where the slave cabins were. Years ago, Greg, they didn't pretend like they were slaves, but Jefferson had hundreds of slaves, enslaved people, okay? And so they took us there, and I asked our guide, how is it that Jefferson could say all men are created equal while you were keeping my great-grandfather fed as a slave? And he said he chose his selfish interests over morality. And so we have that same thing going on today, and I'm going to sit down. Back in March, there are 175 ambassadors from countries here in the United States in Washington, D.C. Only one ambassador has been expelled by this administration, and that was Ibrahim Rasool. And guess which country he's from? South Africa. So we have the same kind of issue coming before us today. We have to rededicate ourselves, Peter, and we're not just looking back. I'm grateful that the people from Sankofa here, my memory is that Sankofa looks back to inspire us to go forward. So we're excited. We want to hear from somebody who didn't do a lot of research on Malcolm, but he was with Malcolm when he was murdered at the Audubon Ballroom in New York City. As Peter takes his seat, you should know how privileged we are. The organization that Malcolm formed, the Organization of African American Unity, I think, and Peter can correct me, I think there are 2 members who are still alive. Brother Peter is 87 years old, and we hope he's going to be here for a long time, But there's a hadith of the prophet that says, live each day like it's going to be your last day, but live each day like you're going to live forever. So we're going to take advantage of May 19th, 2025 to hear what Brother Peter has to say for us. Peter.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. It is really, you cannot imagine how glad I am to still be around here still be around here with you to celebrate and honor Brother Malcolm on what would have been his 100th birthday. He was born May 19, 1925. And we always talked about the possibility, you know, of what we're going to do on that day. And so I am glad that we're able to be here at Howard University and see folks out here, brothers and sisters out here who are with us. I think that to me, the most important thing we need to do on Brother Malcolm's birthday is to really study about what he felt on the issue of black unity and on the issue of Pan-Africanism. This brother those two things were the things that guided him. Of course, he had other things. Those are the two things that really guided him. I'm going to read you, in terms of the union thing, I'm going to read you something from on July 31st, 1963, when he was still in the Nation of Islam. He sent a letter to civil rights leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King, Roy Wilkins, Whitney Young, James Farmer. He sent a letter to them. And I'm just going to read you just a quote from the letter. A united front involving all Negro leaders is absolutely necessary. If capitalistic Kennedy and communistic Khrushchev can find something to comment in common on which to form a united front despite their differences, despite their ideological differences, it is a disgrace for Negro leaders to not be able to submerge our minor differences in order to seek a common solution to a common problem caused by a common enemy. And that letter went out. Of course, the thing never occurred because he was assassinated not very much later. But he did. Dr. King responded to the letter, and a couple of the other leaders in the NAACP, in the civil rights movement. So, by the way, we call our organization a human rights organization because human rights was the national term. Was the international term that was used at the United Nations. They had a commission on human rights. So that's what we call our organization, a human rights organization. And one of the things that Brother Malcolm had planned to do was take the United States government before the United Nations Commission on Human Rights and accuse it of being either unwilling or unable to protect the lives and property of black people. Now, if you can imagine, when he talked about doing that, I could just see, whenever I talk about that, I always visualize, J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI, and the head of the State Department, and the president's top people, how they would respond to something like that. And Brother Malcolm was traveling to Africa. When he went to Africa in 1964, I'll just read the names of the 7 African leaders that he met with. And brothers and sisters, and when I say met with, I don't mean at a conference with a bunch of folks. He met with each one of them for 1.5 to 3 hours, with each one of them. And that was President Ezekwe of President Nnamdi of Nigeria, President Kenyatta of Kenya, President Nasser of Egypt, President Nkrumah of Ghana, President Nyerere of Tanzania, President Obote of Uganda, and President Toure of Guinea. He had meetings with those, and if you read the book this fight writer wrote a book in which he said that when Brother Malcolm did that, that's when J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI boys started saying, this guy, we got to be careful. We got to be very, very careful. Because if those African leaders had individual meetings with him, and later on, they were when he was getting ready to draw together a program that to take the United States before the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. They were going to be backing him to do that, and they were well aware of that. Now we know the United States, from a perspective, could tell the UN Commission on Human Rights, kiss my behind. But from a propaganda perspective, it would have been devastating for them to have to go and to have that spread around about what they were doing to African American people in this country. So, brother, and these were just some of the things. And when Brother Malcolm went to Africa, he not only met with them, but I have met Africans later who were students and young leaders. He met with them in small places. He treated him something like he was our Secretary of State, or he was our Prime Minister. That's the way he was treated when he was traveling in Africa, and really, really, really upset the United States government. So I would like to, as I said before, I hope, brothers and sisters, that we can really, 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 at least try to pull through and do something with what he was talking about when he said the absolute need for black unity and the need for Pan-Africanism, for all of us to accept Pan-African. I'm sorry about the phone. I forgot to put the phone down. I got one of these cell phones that's about 5 years old. So they do everything. I know all y'all get a new cell phone every year, but I still get one. I've had for almost 5 years. So that tells you about something about where I am when it comes to those kind of things. But brothers and sisters, it's very important to understand and to pay. And what I want to do, and I hope that one of the things that we can come out of here and do, is to set up concrete things in the areas of education, the areas of economics, the areas of culture, the areas of communications, the areas of psychology, the areas of unity. We need to set up an organization and people who are interested in those different arenas should get together. We should all get together first together, and then we should divide it into those different arenas. Because we got comments in your program that you are getting today. We have Brother Malcolm say specifically that what he believed that we should be doing in those various areas to more effectively take care of ourselves in this basically white supremacist society. So I'm really hoping that out of this, and I always tell people today we're here. I didn't want to hear nothing about current president, all those folks today. We're here to honor Brother Malcolm. We'll deal with those folks another time. We know we're going to have to deal with those folks, but today we're here to honor Brother Malcolm. And I'd like to say that one of Brother Malcolm's top aides was a brother named Earl Grant. Now, Earl, for me, was the second most important person as I became active after Brother Malcolm. Earl was he had been in the Nation of Islam, and he was Earl 5X Grant. And he got out before Brother Malcolm did. But when Brother Malcolm left, Earl became one of his supporters, and Earl was an absolutely a brother who taught, and you sit down with him, and he could teach you about all kinds of things that were going on. And Brother Malcolm actually used him almost like he learned from Earl, because Earl was the type of person who didn't talk very much. He read. And he listened, and he would tell us to do the same thing. He told me, Peter, you need to go. He told me he wanted to go to a meeting one time, and he said, I don't want you to open your mouth when you go to that meeting. I want you to sit there and listen and take notes, so that when you come back and I can ask you about it, you can tell me what was going on there. I said, too often we go to meetings And we be so busy, you know, responding and getting upset or turning on or turning off by the commentary, that we don't come out of that with the basic thing that was going on at the meeting. And that includes whether it's a meeting of people that you support or a meeting of people who, you know, who are hostile towards us. And I would sometimes, following Brother Malcolm's direction, I went to meetings of places where I might be the only one or two black people in the whole audience. And of course, I would always sit in the back. I'd sit on the back row so I could watch the audience and see what they were doing. So could nobody come behind me, you know, knock me upside my head. If they were going to do it, I was usually in places like that. The wall you see back there, there's those kind of places in the back. So, you know, we were protected. So I always said it was the last row when I went to those kinds of meetings. But that's what I learned from Brother Malcolm. To sit there and take notes, so that when you came back and you talk about it and you send out information, that it was the Brother Malcolm, I will always say, was a great human being, a great black person, a great Pan-Africanist, a master teacher. And then about 3 or 4 years ago when I was teaching, I used to tell my students I developed another concept. He was a great learner. He knew how to learn, it goes to where he used to tell us, go sit there and listen. Don't feel you got to talk and respond, get your out and say everything. Learn how to listen, and then take that listening and utilize it in whatever campaign that you're trying to do. And so what I'm going to do now is drop a few minutes of my time off and let this brother, who's going to talk about the Earl Grant, Tahuti worked with Earl about 20-some years before Earl died, and Earl was his master teacher. And he's going to tell us a little bit about what he learned and how he was taught by Earl Grant.
First, I would just like to ask for permission. He just gave it to me at 87, so if anybody has an issue, you'd have to deal with Brother Peter, because that's the way we do honor each other. Basically, I'm talking to you for a second if you don't mind. 17 years ago, I think it was. I've known him longer than that, but he came out to California and I interviewed, actually we had like it was in the backyard, just a talk between he and who I call Professor Grant, Earl Grant, 5X, who he's talking about. And we just sat and talked about family business, I call it. And that's who we are. We are family, regardless of what we've been trained in our thinking. I learned how to think on a different level. We always have different ideas of our knowledge, of what we've acquired. But wisdom doesn't kick in until you really sit at the feet of an elder and draw upon, I'm not talking about years, I'm talking about millennia of knowledge, of experience. You know, we learn by doing, and doing is being engaged with your elders. So anyone here that doesn't understand that, let me be the first to say that I'm a beneficiary of an elder, going all the way back to the Creator. And then if we don't have that understanding, that is the strength that we need to correct these issues that we're experiencing today. In terms of, he gave me the topic of the psychological impact of Brother Malcolm and in relationship to Brother Earl 5X. Now, this brother, if he were here, he would be 95. He's a high school dropout. Didn't finish school, went to the service, you know, the whole line. That's how they usually have people at that time, 40s. So went to the service, came back, was touched by a book he read coming back by J.A. Rogers. And he picked the book up and asked the barber, who was in the barber shop, what does this mean? And he pointed him on to him into the where to get it from. The Muslims sold the book, so he went over there, and then he ran into Brother Malcolm trying to buy some bean soup. So, and he said that was the most impressive human being he had ever come across, and it was just a brief 2-3 minute meeting, and it captivated him. So he ended up joining the Nation of Islam, but he actually left before Brother Malcolm because he said they didn't have anything for him to do. He was trained in all kind of things that you guys see in movies. He actually did when he was in the service, like the Black Ops stuff, defusing nuclear bombs, all of that. He had that type of training and experience. So when he wanted to contribute to the nation, but he said that they didn't have mechanism for the skills that he had, and so he left. And he said he hadn't talked to Brother Malcolm, I'm speaking of, after he left, because that was against the rules. But as soon as Brother Malcolm experienced his difficulties inside of the nation, the first person he called was Brother Earl 5X. Drove over, talked 3 to 5 hours, he said, directly on what was he going to do without the nation, because it was obviously that he was not going to be allowed back. So to fast forward, they really spread ahead organizing, and he was like the vice president or vice, whatever they called it in the organization, but he was the second in charge. Okay, so when they formulated the OAU, he helped develop the charter with John Henry Clark and some of the others you may know. And Professor Brady, I'm sure he's told the story plenty of times of he didn't even know what he was going to, and ended up in the OAU as the editor of their newsletter, The Black Last. So we never know who impacts us, but psychologically, this is what Brother Malcolm did for us. He presented us with, I guess, the dichotomy of looking in the mirror and hating what you see in the reflection. Now that's a heavy statement, but that's the degree that we have been programmed by the society for hundreds of years, to the point where we wouldn't even recognize it. Now, where did this manifest in many of his speeches? When he made the analogy of the house Negro and the field Negro. And he talked about how much the house Negro loved the master more than the master loved himself. You have to think about that. Psychologically, what does that say for us? Or for our ancestors? We have to think about having the contradiction of having to raise our oppressor's children, the contradiction of having to raise your own children by that oppressor, the contradictions that we have to deal with mentally, psychologically all the time. This is all encapsulated in what we currently call white supremacy. But we act like it's went somewhere. Like Jim stopped pouring. Okay. So, but finally, I'd just like to say, he gave us the ability to face our oppression with the image of, as was said, the black shining prince. It was our manhood, our ability to stand despite all the trauma, despite all of the hurt or the pain, despite all of that. He gave us a pathway of courage. As the last thing I'll say is, as I said earlier, we have to stop inventing new ways to be cowards. All we have to do is follow that example. and understand that if we truly believe in all of that wisdom, in all of that knowledge, in all of that we celebrate on his 100th commemoration of his birth, then we should stand strong and tall. We shouldn't take anything off of anyone. We should organize and move and get an action plan and just follow what he already told us to do, because we never did it. Thank you.
Again, I just want to close by saying that there are two areas that we need to get organized in to carry out and honor Brother Malcolm on his birthday. That is on the area of black unity, which I read you that thing that he sent to those civil rights leaders. And I think some of you have seen some of those leaders are getting responded to Brother Malcolm pretty good. Like you've seen those pictures of Brother Malcolm and Martin Luther King. I remember when Martin Luther King came to speak at one of our rallies, man, we couldn't believe it. We was just shocked that he was there. He was sitting down front, and when it was over, Brother Malcolm, during it, Brother Malcolm introduced him to the audience and said, thanked him for coming, So I really think that the United States government, one of its great fears was any close relationship between Brother Malcolm and Dr. King. I think they truly feared that, and they were determined that it was not going to happen. That picture that sometimes you see of the two of them together when they were at the airport and they just kind of ran each other, they were really and truly that people. I was a member of the OAAU, and I know that there were OAAU people who were having quiet meetings with Dr. King's people at that time, and so as we honor him, and as I said before, we can only honor him by carrying out what he was saying about us becoming more unified, and by understanding clearly the importance of Pan-Africanism, because the fate of people of African descent, whether they're in the Caribbean, South America, or anywhere else, is based on a serious relationship between people of African descent in North America and people of the African continent. That's just the reality. If people on the continent and those of us in North America begin to work closely with each other, then that will be a tremendous protection for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our great-great-grandchildren, and all the young black folks who are coming out in the future. Thank you very much.
We have a great debt that we owe A.P. Bailey. In fact, one of the things that we learned in our committee from Peter, the point that he made about the fear of Martin and Malcolm getting together, is that many people don't know. Well, some people saw the movie, I forget the name of the movie, Selma. About 3 weeks before Malcolm was killed, he was down in Selma speaking at the, I forget the name of the church, and that was something that people were trying to prevent. Now, if Joella is going to help me, we have some video clips of Malcolm we want to share with you.
All right, as always, the time is going to pass. So we're going to do a couple of clips, but not too many. We have some young poets going to be presenting after our first set of adult poets. So I can't wait to hear them. So I'm going to be a little brief with this. So we on the program, we're going to do a little bit about Malcolm and education, and hopefully, maybe 2, so we don't do too many.
This is part true. You won't find very many people who are Afro-American who will admit it.
No sound.
This is part true. You won't find very many people
Okay.
who are Afro-American who will admit it. But if it is true,
Can I get some help with the sound?
this is part true.
Can I get some help with the sound? You got sound up there, man?
You won't find very many people who are Afro-American. This is
Can I
part
get some
true.
help with the sound? I'm having a problem
You
with
won't
the
find
sound
very
right
many
now.
people who are Afro-American who will admit it.
Huh?
This is part two. You won't find very many people who are Afro-American who will admit it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for this little technical problem. We'll get it straightened in a second. Huh? I'm sorry, man. What do you see? Yeah, that's not happening.
But if it is true, why? It is true that there is a sluggishness,
Okay.
intellectual sluggishness, academic sluggishness in almost any Negro community. But this exists only because of the
Okay. What we may have to do, a pivot.
people down in this society. This is what.
Huh?
This is
Yeah, I
part
will. So
you
we'll do
will find
this.
very many people
So while we're working on this, I think,
admit it. But if it is true,
Peter,
it is
is
true
this on?
that there is a sluggishness,
Is this on? Is this on? Can I hear me?
academic sluggishness in almost any Negro community.
Yes.
This only because
Okay, so I think we're gonna make a pivot while we get some of this technical stuff squared away.
years
Ibrahim, you introduce our poets who are gonna come up.
held down in
Yeah.
this society. This is why I made reference to the book
Here we go, man.
Black and White. This particular man gives a very good scientific analysis.
While they're working on the technical stuff with the video clips,
It is something that
we have 3 poets who are going to come up.
the system is
If
designed
we can sort of resume,
interest in education before he even gets started.
our first poet is going to be Josh Myers,
Who are also
who's a professor here at Howard University.
run into so
And
many.
I was telling him today, I've known Josh for a few years, but I didn't know he
This
did
is part
poetry.
true.
Oh.
You won't find very many people,
And the second question is
but it is true. Why?
Celine Green, is she in the house?
Intellectual sluggishness,
Okay.
academic sluggishness.
Okay, she's, after Josh finishes, and then we're gonna have
But this is
Esther
only because
Iberum.
of the
Okay.
result.
In that order, Josh first.
This particular gives a very good scientific analysis as to why this lethargy exists in the Negro community.
Okay. Greetings. My name is Josh Myers. I'm also a member of the Positive Black Folks in Action, in addition to teaching here at Howard. When Baba Jawara asked me to read, I was like, uh-oh, I don't have any Malcolm poems. So what I did was I brought some other poets, and then I'm going to read a new original piece that I wrote. But I want to begin as the Nottoway Plantation continues or finishes burning. I want to begin with a poem that's part of my collection, Holy Ghost Key, called Flame Carrying. In honor to the fire praise for the flames. You said nobody started a fire like Jerry Allen, and nobody tended flames like the bandwagon. Working that rhythmic kindling, keeping the tradition alight. The bandwagon rides through like a flaming chariot, coming forth to carry us, spirit us home. Thelonious, fire. Waller, fire. It keeps spreading. Then the left hand booms, an eruption. Damn, how that happened? How you sneak dynamite on stage? Blast around the bass lines, we now encased in all this heat. Burning fast, now slow. Black people love a 350-degree oven, warming us like the Harlem 369th. James Reese Europe warned us that fighting in hell meant fighting great wars over there and at home. Negro music is the Great War, a reimagination of ragtime, recognizing the African roots of war. Hell fighters, hell fighting meant we return fire, we return fighting. A symphonic march scorches earth, slashes and burns this concept of home of the brave. So the next poem is actually not an original, it's from Lucille Clifton. Lucille Clifton, yes, absolutely. We honor her, she spent time here at Howard University. Very brilliant, Baltimore-based, what can we say? But my friend Shauna Morgan always shared this poem on May 19th. And as I was looking through the collection of Lucille Clifton's collection, I realized that her poem, her Malcolm poem, is on page 100 of all pages. And so it felt appropriate to bring Lucille Clifton into this space. And so it's simply titled Malcolm. Nobody mentioned war. The doors were closed. Black women shaved their heads. Black men wrestled in the alleys like leaves. Prophets were ambushed as they spoke. And from their holes, black eagles flew, screaming through the streets. All right, so this is the original, specially commissioned by Brother Joel, even though he didn't know he was commissioning a new poem. This is called, I'm calling this a Malcolm poem on May 19th. A Malcolm poem on May 19th because they are still calling kittens biscuits and telling us that we have made progress and knives are actually getting deeper, and our children have been told over and over that you were just a prophet of hate and all you hated was white supremacy and capitalism and Zionism. And you kept asking us to ask ourselves who told us to hate ourselves. And some of us still haven't gotten closer to knowing what it means to love like you loved. To love us like Earl and Louise and Ella and Rodnell loved. And because we need that hard, that challenging love, that love it hard, Toni Morrison described love, the way you love, because love is in need of love today, and because you loved us so we might know what it meant to choose love instead of exploitation, love instead of self-hate, love instead of disregard, love instead of believing that the people who shackled us and threw you in prison and threw so many others who are still in prison for loving us, these same people could tell us who we're supposed to love and that it was not you. And somehow our children are still taught this because we have not loved you enough to build our own spaces and our own centers, though we have tried, and our loving is not in vain. But Malcolm, we have not won yet. And it is not because we do not know the devil. It is because loving us is radical and dangerous, and it can lead to persecution and being called insane like Louise, and losing out on what we think are the achievements of black excellence, but what are really the blood debt of a sick society that thought you would just roll over for the fool's goal of that American dream instead of the reparations we deserve for having supposedly built this country even though we didn't want it to. But let's be for real. We're going to find out what love really means because chickens are coming home to roost. And the world you live for is the world we will have because there is no other choice. when the American bombs are still falling and Africa is still neo-colonial and people on something called the internet are calling you a black capitalist, and our children are educated in an American and not African system and might know your name but not much else. So May 19th is not a holiday for them like it was for some children 30 and 40 years ago who were young, gifted, and black, like your friend Lorraine Hansberry said, who was also born on May 19th, and maybe May 19th, 100 years since you came here to this planet and to this settler colony, riding the wave of ancestors from Georgia and Grenada by way of West Africa. Maybe May 19th, 2025 may be once again a day of recommitting ourselves, reminding our folks that an ancestor named El Hajj El Malik El Shabazz Omowale, the son who has returned, who has come home, who returned 100 years ago to link us to every ancestor who refused, every ancestor who rolled their eyes and sucked their teeth and said they wasn't finna do this shit no more. And then say, this little light of mine, the way Fannie Lou Hamer, who loved us and loved you, saying, because letting it shine meant you were the best version of you, which is also the fire this time, which is also the same light made in the reflection of those ancestors who reflect you as an ancestor who made sure that every struggle we waged was a righteous one, that we knew who the real enemy was, and it was not each other. Because it was not us who created house Negroes happy to sit at tables you would have burned. And it was not us who made racist immigration policy and ICE and the weapons that some HBCU presidents and black politician misleaders who still scared of you think we need to destroy the people you love and would have made common cause and solidarity with. And yes, we did not create any of this hateful mess, but loving us means saying on May 19th and every May 19th that these are the Negroes who must get out of the way so black people can live and be free. And loving us means in the next 100 years, the world you live for will be here. Because if we truly loved you, we will make sure of it, and empires would fall, and our children will be able to quote you because they read you, because they understood you, because they lived you, because you were their ancestor, and your ancestors were theirs. And they knew them because they know, and they knew them when they saw them because they loved you. And they were not confused about the war that meant.
He told me to wait. So while I'm waiting, I'm going to get permission from the elders to speak. How's that? You good? Okay. No. You can hear me? Well, I'm pleased to be here to celebrate Brother Malcolm. My name is Sir Lillian Green. I'm a recovering lawyer. But my ancestors and the Creator brought me poetry 20 years ago. And I was asked to share some of my poems today. Based on what I've heard this evening, I'm going to start with a poem that came to me in 2016 when the new African American Museum opened. On the lower level of that museum, there is a case that contains Harriet Tubman's shawl. And next to her shawl, there's another case that contains a notice that was written in 1853. It was a notice posted to recapture a black man who had taken his freedom. These events took place in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. The notice was for a man named Richard Lowe. The man who posted the notice was named James Belt. He owned a plantation in what is now Prince George's County, Montgomery County. He may even be the reason we have Beltsville. But in this notice, he described Richard Lowe, this black man who he was seeking to recapture, as tall and stout, about 28 years of age, a full suit of hair, a missing tooth, and perfectly black. He literally wrote in the notice to recapture him how perfectly black he was. And in the museum that day, my eyes just welled up and I started to cry. The poem started to come to me right there in the museum. And it has occurred to me that if this white man, seeking to recapture a black man, could see the perfection of his blackness so much so that he put it in the notice to recapture him, that surely we should be able to see that perfection today. And when I think of Malcolm X, I think that he would have been able to understand how psychologically it has taken us so long to see that perfection. But at that time, I decided I wrote the poem called I'm Perfectly Black. I'm perfectly black. My ancestors were, and I am, perfectly black. I need not deny it or put on an act. Who I am is an undisputed fact. I am perfect. I am black. I come from ancestors who came through. I know what I am here to do. I am here to keep their legacy intact. With them I have a spiritual pact. Our soul connection is real. Their power I am able to feel. In their power I know what can be done. Toward them I do not walk, I run. Their spirits are ever near, reminding me of what is clear. It is clear the future is now here. The future of ancestors who cried perfect tears. Tears through which they were able to see descendants not yet born absolutely free. Of those descendants I am but one, yet many more are destined to come. For those to come I must be true, and like our ancestors I must come through. Through the middle passage of this day and time, moving humanity into a new paradigm. In this knowledge I firmly stand, rooted to my ancestral land. I stand firm. I stand free. Girded by ancestors who are here with me. Like them, I am perfectly black. I am perfect. I am black. I am perfect. I am black. I am perfect. I am black. Thank you so much. So I'll do one other one. As I was listening to Peter Bailey, and I'm sorry I don't remember the gentleman's name he was speaking with about the fear that the government had about Dr. King and Malcolm connecting, I decided I should read this poem that I wrote for the two of them entitled Malcolm and Martin. Malcolm and Martin. Martin and Malcolm had a dream to achieve freedom for their people by different means. By any means necessary was Malcolm's rallying cry, while Martin saw nonviolent protest as the best way to try. Malcolm went to Mecca, Martin to the mountaintop. Their love for their people did not stop. Spiritually centered, these men had God inside. They worked hard against their oppressor's tide. A tide of hate and violence day in and day out. Each understood what America was about. Malcolm and Martin walked with courage and resolve. These men understood the problem they wanted to solve. They had a message rooted in a desire to see black people live free. Freedom is what they wanted for you and me. The demand for freedom is their enduring legacy. Their legacy is beyond measure. They gave the world an invaluable treasure. The treasure of dignity and the will to fight for freedom and for what was and is right. They fought for justice and freedom until their last breath, inhaling and exhaling America's threats of death. Sadly, assassins murdered them both, taking with them so much hope. For their brutal killings there has been blame. In fact, some killers have been named. Their message of freedom has not ended. It is up to us to extend it. We must continue the work of those giants among men. On us, freedom now depends. Malcolm and Martin lived for their people. They died for them too. And now ask yourself, what am I willing to do? Thank you. You never know who you're going to follow. So I just couldn't really figure out what to read, but I realized that I've been writing and kind of talking to my father, who, if he had, still lives, he would have been 100 last year. And I also realized that the Malcolm poem that I do have, I wrote it at another anniversary. I was performing with Fred Ho, and it was the 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus coming to America. And there were all these celebrations, and of course, whatever we did was not a celebration. So I thought I would read that, even though you have to kind of take your mind back to 1992 a little bit to get it. Essay to X. From this precipice at the close of the century, we either fall or fly. There are nooses everywhere. When we walk streets and roads, our heads tangle inside the ropes of dead-end jobs, hollow-eyed ignorance, illness, hate, and loss. The same ropes that long ago replaced our shackles. The hard ground of our moral authority that you trumpeted loudly atop crates and makeshift platforms has dropped from beneath our feet. Suddenly we are hanging, dying. There are millions dangling in the air like a warehouse of raw meat, freshly butchered. From this precipice at the close of the century, we either fall or fly. There are no official ovens yet, but this searing inner fire crack burns from the heart outward, leaving a storm of bullets, leaving hollow corpses begging for quarters. There are no official ovens yet, but we are labeled official pariah in the nightly TV show Black Man in Handcuffs, or in each campaign for the presidency of the world. Hounds of hate trained in the Northwest woods to bleed us. Those lobotomized walk like zombies even to the Supreme Court. Mothers rock slaughtered sons in their wasted blood. From this precipice at the close of the century, we either fall or fly. Even we who never knew you want to say we need you, but we won't. You are gone, a brilliant thread that floats farther and farther from our grasp. We want to say we need you, admitting our failures, the failures of our parents. There have been so many tributes, wide-eyed, passionate, mediocre, to your legacy that they have become ingrained in our sad social theater. A fat man in processed curls sweats invoking your name. Activists wave fists in a huddle while outside their children blow white crack clouds into the night air. A young man jauntily sports your X on his hat while calling to his women named bitch. From this precipice at the close of the century, we either fall or fly, and we must confess to feeling heavy of heart and heavier of wings. Our people's national symbol has become a scream, silent even to whites who share our misery as they are led clinging to wisps of race privilege into the hideous high step of the Third Reich, locking women's wombs, funding bombs, not babies, suiting up to police the whole world, turning back the clock to the 1950s, the 1940s, the 1930s, the 1920s, the 1910s, the 1900s, the 1890s, the 1880s, the 1870s. From this precipice at the close of the century, we either fall or fly. Every decade we prove how brave we are on someone else's killing field. And now we must be much braver to reclaim our streets and roads, houses, jobs, schools, children, music, and art, love, our lives. We need a new sound, an old sound, a chorus of clear, pure voices unafraid to sing truth, to stand here at the Audubon Ballroom and not be afraid. It's really die or do now. And dear, dear Father, now more than ever, it is necessary by any means. I'll just read one more. Let's be talking and talking. And for this, I want to read a poem that is also, it says it's, I want to say it's for Malcolm, but it's also for Gaza. Autumn starts the end of the world. Here in this glorious red, purple, and gold, I don't forget you, Gaza. Every step I take, I walk for you, for the 80-year-old woman trekking morning, noon, and night from north to south, trailed by deafening explosions and mass death, seeking water, seeking food. She tells the reporter, I am hungry. They are kneading the dough now. I walk for the baby in the metal crib, both legs amputated twice, first below the knee, then above the knee. Mercifully, he is sleeping, his tiny limbs in fat casts twice his size. With every glass of water I drink, I know a calculating fascist is stealing your water, trying to kill you. Every bit I eat, I know the Zionist state is stealing your food, your medicine, salivating to unleash a torrent of disease in the concentration camp of shattering buildings, bones, glass, brains, muscle, and lives. Decaying corpses used as bait by Israeli snipers, gloated over, run over, eaten by stray dogs. We are the land and humanity together, Gaza. Peace if you're willing to fight for it, George Jackson said. On this continent was the beginning of 500 years of colonizing that ends with you, Gaza. Here, the bombs in Tulsa and Philadelphia, the slave patrols turned police forces, the unhoused, evicted, foreclosed, and otherwise robbed, chased from place to place, begging for food and sometimes shitting on the street. Whole cities denied clean water. Even U.S. soldiers like those squatting and dying in Syria are denied care for their shattered bodies and brains. I stand here with you, Gaza. We are the land and humanity together. And the earth will not take more of these jackals and fascists and colonizers. It refuses to take more of our blood in the street or soaking into the earth. Every drop of your blood spilled tears down the empire, their lies, hypocrisy, their murderous international division of humanity. The mad generals leash out. They know they have already lost and can never win.
Autumn is death and promise of renewal. 500 years collapses into a single dot and springs forward as an olive tree. I resist with you, Gaza. Onward.
Next, come up next. Introduce him? Sure. He's going to introduce you.
Brothers and sisters, we're due for a treat now. Brother Obi Egbuna, who's also a legend in this area, is going to bring up some of his young people, and they're going to treat us. Brother Obi.
That's for Malcolm, right? So, okay, good evening, everyone. We're about to hear from the Mass Emphasis Children's History and Theater Company. We are actually in one of our home theaters. We have two, this one and St. Stephen's Church on 16th Street. We were created in 2010, and we have performed here about 9 times. And so welcome to our theater space. On the day that my father went into Howard University Hospital to spend the last 57 days of his life, we performed a play here, and the play was about Julian Mayfield. And for those of you who know Brother Malcolm's history, that was his choice to be the international representative of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. The same Julian Williams that drove Robert Williams successfully out of Monroe, North Carolina, and the same Julian Mayfield who was the leader of the original repatriate movement in Ghana. So just having things come full circle is awesome. So what's going to happen is the children are going to recite the poem in 2 languages. And after that, Brother Jawai asked me to say a few words. We originally had a conversation about performing a play we did called 1925, which was about Patrice Lumumba, Frantz Fanon, and Malcolm as children, all born in 1925, along with Medgar Evers. Didn't have time to put that together. That play's also been performed in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So we came up with a poem today. Unlike the great poets that came before us, children are going to recite the one we wrote. So we hope you enjoy it, and we'll say a few words after they're finished, and you'll hear it in 2 languages. Thank you.
As early as possible, African children must learn about the road to liberation. At certain community gatherings, we make it our duty to pull up libraries. By assassination. However, too often, they are arguably the best examples of commitment and dedication. The best tribute to parents to continue and expand on their work to mass organization. We are grateful to every fallen fighter that uplifted us with the bounce of words and action. This process begins when they start touching our hearts and uplifting our minds. But our response is massive character. It's fair to say these great women and men are living on borrowed time. Medgar Evers trained his children how to respond if they ran through a Molotov cocktail through the window or tried to run them over with a car when they crossed the street. Based on how dangerous Mississippi was at that moment in history, is it possible he was approaching the finish line? More than likely, he courageously accepted that he was living in borrowed time. On his very last night, Dr. King preached about the promised land and having already gone to the mountaintop. Did he know that the very next day, while relaxing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel with friends, that his life was coming to an end? More than likely, he courageously accepted that he was living on borrowed time. The enemies of our resistance not only snatched the lives of Patrice Lumumba, Maurice Bishop, and Thomas Sankara away. Those responsible took it upon themselves by the remains of their bodies, hoping to strike fear in their hearts to their comrades and families. They have yet to realize their fighting spirit is guided by fallen heroes who are dismissed as mere casualties. More than likely, they courageously accepted that they were living on borrowed time. We lost Herbert Tepo and Walter Rodney due to explosions that went off from their vehicles. Too often, we overlook similarities that expose when our pressures are undeniably predictable. Fighters of the highest caliber always ignore these spectacles because they're living on borrowed time. We lost Eduardo Monley when he opened a package containing a bomb. His comrade was already affected by the death, yet they kept their calm. A reality of a war for national liberation helps you accept that you are living on borrowed time. For nearly 2 decades, Amilcar Cabral prepared his people to win an orange struggle and to cultivate the soil. Our enemies invaded a neighboring nation with hopes of eliminating him, and his loss made our blood boil. The tragedy is he never got his homeland liberated. A real fighter accepts this fate because they're living on borrowed time. After the mysterious plane crash that claimed the life of Samora Machel, Mozambique and the Soviet Union immediately demanded an investigation. However, the apartheid regime did not hand over the plane black boxes until 30 days later. And the foreign minister lied to the world, claiming that the crash was a result of the pilot's intoxication. He said that your life continues and those who continue the revolution. He knew he was living on borrowed time.
Steve Biko was savagely beaten and tortured during a terrorist police interrogation because he was the voice of Black consciousness in his people's liberation. Then he was followed by being given for 750 miles to a prisoner's hospital, where he died from massive injuries to the brain, confirming that our colonizers were barbaric and insane. Then he was followed. Then he knew he was living on borrowed time. Van Hampton once said, nothing is more important than stopping fascism, because fascism will stop us all. The way that we should call the police, the FBI, and the tactical unit of the Cook County State and reprisal. They knew they were living on borrowed time. His life was cut short by cowards in Tanzania and the very place he laid his head, which ended his place in this world. Pio Pinto met a similar fate in Kenya in his driveway on next little girl. They knew they were living on borrowed time. Felix Mummy's shadow looks over Cameroon till this very day. He was poisoned in Geneva Battalion by the CIA. He knew he was living on borrowed time. Archbishop Oscar Nero's body was tattered with blows while celebrating Mass. The scene was described as blood-chilling. Came as no surprise the military death squad ordered the killing. He knew he was living on borrowed time. On the day many of us sit down to enjoy full court turkey dinner, Venerable sisters were executed by the secret police force of Trujillo.
a puppet, and a sinner. They knew they were living on borrowed time. After his execution, the CIA and Bolivian government decided to humiliate Che Guevara in death by having his corpse on full display. This maneuver backfired because he's revered and celebrated as one of the most respected revolutionary symbols that inspires people on the battlefield to intensify their liberation struggles day after day, even if they are living on borrowed time. As we commemorate Brother Malcolm's 100th birthday, the pain of his loss has yet to go away. For restitution, we say no settlements or payoffs, only the abolition of police terrorist culture and the FBI and CIA. They too are living on borrowed time.
Now I'm gonna say the poem, but in Spanish. Agradecemos a cada persona valiente que luchó por nosotros con palabras y acciones firmes. Todo empieza cuando su ejemplo nos toca el corazón y nos hace pensar más profundamente. Cuando mucha gente se une en respuesta, se puede decir que estos hombres y mujeres vivían en tiempo prestado. Medgar Evers les enseñó a sus hijos que ese era el clan, les lanzaba bombas o intentaban atropellarlos, subiendo peligrosos que eran Mississippi en ese momento. ¿Es posible que él supiera que su tiempo acercaba? Seguramente lo aceptó con valor, porque sabía que vivía en tiempo prestado. El doctor Martin Luther King Jr. en su última noche habló de haber llegado a la cima de la montaña y haber visto la tierra prometida. Sabía que al día siguiente iban a matar en un balcón de motel. Lo más probable es que él sí aceptó su destino, que su tiempo había llegado. Patrice Lumumba, Maurice Bishop y Tomás Sankara fueron asesinados por enemigos de la libertad. Escondieron sus cuerpos para costar a sus pueblos, pero no sabían que sus muertes encendrían más fuerzas a la lucha. Ellos también sabían que vivían en tiempo prestado. Herbert Chepstow y Walter Rodney murieron en bombas en su carro. Nuestros enemigos repiten las mismas tácticas, pero los verdaderos luchadores no se dejan impresionar, porque saben que están viviendo en tiempo prestado. Eduardo Molde murió al abrir un paquete con un libro que tenía una bomba. Sus compañeros sintieron dolor, pero se mantuvieron firmes. Cuando uno estaba en una guerra por libertad a su pueblo, sabe que está viviendo en tiempo prestado. Amílcar Cabral preparó a su gente para luchar y sembrar la tierra. Lo asesinaron antes de que pudiera ver sus países libres. Pero el verdadero luchador entiende que se puede ser el precio y también vivía en tiempo prestado. Samora Machel murió en un misterioso accidente aéreo. Mozambique y la Unión Soviética exigieron respuestas, pero el régimen de aeropuerto escondió la verdad. Michelle decía que su vida seguiría en quienes continúan la lucha. Ella sabía que también vivía en tiempo prestado. Steve Biko fue golpeado brutalmente por la policía y luego lo dejaron morir lejos de su gente. Su muerte mostró la crueldad de los colonizadores y él sabía que estaba viviendo en tiempo prestado. Fred Hampton dijo que lo más importante es frenar el fanatismo. Fue asesinado por la policía, el FBI y el gobierno en su propia casa. Little Bobby Hutton también fue asesinado porque las panteras negras eran una amenaza para el sistema. Ellos sabían que vivían en tiempo prestado. Herbert Lee, Johnny Lee Jackson fueron asesinados por defender el derecho al voto. Sus muertes muestran el odio racial que enfrentan. Ellos sabían que ellos vivían en tiempos prestados. David Tíbico fue asesinado mientras dormía en Tanzania. Pino Pita fue asesinado en su carro frente a su hija pequeña en Kenia. Ellos sabían que vivían en tiempo prestado. Félix Moe fue matado por la CIA en Ginebra. Aún hoy su presencia se siente en Camerún. Él sabía que vivía en tiempo prestado. Oscar Romero fue asesinado a tiros mientras daba misa. Un escuadrón de la muerte ordena su asesinato. Él sabía que vivía en tiempo prestado. Las hermanas Miralba en la República Dominicana fueron asesinadas el mismo día en que mucha gente celebraba con pavo. La policía secreta de Trujillo los mató. Ellas también vivían en tiempo prestado. Che Guevara fue ejecutado por la CIA y el gobierno de Bolivia, quienes luego exhibieron su cuerpo por humillarlo, pero eso no funcionó, porque solo su lucha sigue inspirando revoluciones en todo el mundo, incluso subiendo que vivía en tiempo prestado. Ahora que celebramos los 100 años del nacimiento de Malcolm X, su pérdida aún duele. Nos queremos recordar dinero. Queremos que se acabe la cultura de violencia policial. El FBI y la CIA, ellos también saben que vivimos en tiempo prestado.
Thank you. And I see some parents here. To the parents of these children who are here, please stand up. Thank you. Thank you. Brother Gerard told me to say a few short things. For those of you who know me, I promise I'll be short. There's nothing like articulating ideas after people have seen execution of the idea. And Malcolm personified that as the ultimate organizer. Okay, so one of the things we know about the South, first of all, understanding we are matrilineal people, mother-centered. Happy birthday to Lorraine Hansberg. This is her birthday today too. For those of you who celebrate Patrice Lumumba, who's also 100 this year, and Secretary's name was mentioned by Mr. Bailey earlier, you know that if it wasn't for Vietnam defeating French in an armed struggle, Guinea and Mali and the Congo and others don't break the chains of settler colonialism. This is the birthday of Ho Chi Minh, who told the Vietnamese people the world won't be free till Africa is free. So just wanted to acknowledge some birthdays. Okay, one of the things we know about assassination culture, we must, part of this decolonization process is not portraying our fighters who lost on the battlefield as victims. Never acceptable. Malcolm told numerous people between 64 and 65, he knew he was a dead man, but all I did is help him intensify the work. They've been told by people who worked with Thomas Sankara and Samora Machel, after they met each other, they felt that they would never see each other alive again. And when Maurice Bishop spoke at Medgar Evers College, he told everybody, because of the information he was revealing that day, and because nothing would be lost in translation, because he was an English-speaking African, just like you, being representing Grenada, where Brother Malcolm's mother was born, he said he knew he'd never see that audience alive again. Thanks to Colin Powell, he was assassinated later on that year in 1983. So the most courageous, they're selfless enough to put their lives on the line, so we should be inspired by their example and never use their example to retreat or capitulate ever. Here comes the rough part. We need to make an appeal to Brother Malcolm's family, because it is now public knowledge that one of his daughters is working with Ben Crump. And they are suing the NYPD, the FBI, and CIA, the true assassins of Malcolm, not the Nation of Islam, for $100 million. We have a humble appeal. That case needs to go. Malcolm X is not Cole Van Simpson or Ron Goldman. That doesn't belong in civil court, it belongs in criminal court, because the FBI and CIA the world's greatest Christians. We must make that appeal to them. And it has ramifications because if they take the money and run, it sends a message that that was an isolated incident of bad judgment. And while we protest the FBI and CIA, they recruit. And the Peace Corps recruits. We're here at Howard University. Dr. Carpenter has shown us cruises through campus that says this is home to this is the HBCU with the most Peace Corps recruits. And the difference between the Peace Corps and the CIA is the same difference between the White Citizens Council and the Ku Klux Klan. The Bump Center engages in all types of clandestine activity. The Pentagon oversees the African Studies Department. When my father used to be, he told me that the CIA mercenary unit that was set up to overthrow Frelimo in Mozambique, they had a Renamo member teaching Southern African history right here at Howard. They're in our face. And so moving on though, we cannot be intimidated. No. Too many times we honor our leaders and we make them saintly, we make them godly. And the message we give these children, not only can they continue Brother Malcolm's work, they can take it to new unprecedented heights. We must not be intimidated about history. Lastly, in Malcolm's name, he said, the modern day John Brown, you know who he said it was, Comandante Fidel Castro. In Malcolm's name, let us organize to get the blockade in Cuba lifted once and for all. Before physical assassination takes place, character assassination takes place. In Malcolm's name, let's get Assad Shakur off this country's terrorist list. Let's get the $2 million bond lifted off her head. And let's get Cuba off the State Department's terrorist list. Let's be like Malcolm. There's a difference between sympathy and solidarity. Are you in sympathy with the Palestinians or are you in solidarity with them? If you're in solidarity with them, you got to be fighting Zionists with the blood they got on our hands. All the police departments in this country being trained by the Israeli Defense Forces. So if you say Palestine doesn't have anything to do with you, police got everything to do with you. New York police got everything to do with you. Detroit police got everything to do with you. Baltimore police got everything to do with you. Like you know. Brother Malcolm wrote a pamphlet called Zionist Logic in 1964 when he was poisoned in Egypt. And President Nasser's doctors had to save his life. And you see a picture of Malcolm with Ahmed Shukri, the first chairman of the PLO. So we're continuing the work of Malcolm. And lastly, Malcolm said land is the basis of all independence. Defending what belongs to us. To tell imperialism, hands off Burkina Faso, hands off Niger, hands off Sahel, no question it's a step in the right direction, but does that mean you are ready to be hands on Africa? That is the question. We are about to set up a project in the Assad Shakur's name and Pauline Lumumba's name. Let us build a support system for Cuba's doctors on the African continent. We can do that today. Let's create an alternative to the things we have a problem with. In Brother Malcolm's name, we are honored, and everywhere Malcolm went, he recruited. That's how he was able to build 46 mosques for the Nation of Islam. You saw these children. By the end of this program, I expect to be mobbed by everybody who has grandchildren, nieces, nephews. So the next time you're here, your children are up here. We thank you.
Are we doing the clips or are we going to do clips today? I think that's over. Let's try maybe to see if we can get Sharon up here. And get Sharon up here. Sharon, I think we're going to pivot to you. Okay? We're going to pivot to you for now. All right? Huh? Not right now, man. Not right now. I have to get something down here, Sharon. I have to get down here. Is you here? Is you here? Yep.
And he just put it on the script.
Huh? Yeah, I think you can get it up.
I'll just take a look.
Yes, sir.
No, but I need a slide.
On the slide, on the big screen, right?
I need a pen.
Hard time.
And hold on a second, because I don't know how to use it.
Let me do the chat.
But see, it's not coming out the way. Okay, I see what he's saying. Okay. Good evening. That's a lot to follow. You know, let's give the young people another round of applause. They did a wonderful job. I'm good. Greetings, my name is Dr. Sharon Khan, and I'm a member of the Positive Black Folks in Action, the group that organized this event. And you know, you never know how you are aligned with your ancestors or mentors or friends. You never know when you're going to meet someone who's very instrumental in your life. And I met Professor Bailey back in, I believe it was like 1960 something, 1969. He worked in the Time Life building, and I worked in the bank. I'm from New York, and I worked in the bank downstairs. And he would come down, and I showed him how to open his first checking account. That's how far we go back. And he was a writer for Ebony and Jet at the time. And he would bring the magazines there, show us, you know, his articles. I didn't know his affiliation with Malcolm X at the time. And, you know, I think as many of us were back then, somewhat intimidated by Malcolm. And he showed the articles. I said, yeah, that's nice. But you live and you learn. And fast forward years later, I heard him on the radio. He was living in Richmond, Virginia. He was on the radio. And I tuned in. And I heard him and I called him. And I said, you probably don't remember me, you know. And I kind of, you know, gave him a little description of who I was. And of course, he said he did, but who knows, you know. But I did say that I had also relocated from New York. I was living in, and I moved to Maryland. And he gave me his phone number, contacted him. That was about 25 years ago. And just followed him throughout the years. He's been my mentor. He was working with C. Dolores Tucker. And at that time, we, you know, formulated our own little organization and, you know, been attached back, you know, at the hip ever since, you know. So you just never know who's going to impact your life. And just to give you a little background on myself, I'm from Mount Vernon, New York. And that's where Betty Shabazz moved after the assassination, you know, of her husband. And I did have an opportunity to work with her. And I was very young. I was always one of these little busy, always wanting to get involved in stuff, you know. I was on the board of directors of an organization called CAG. And Dr. Shabazz was head of a YMED program back then. So I had an opportunity to meet her in the 70s. And her children, you know, she raised 6 daughters.
And they were very isolated from the community because they didn't attend any of our schools there. So, but we, you know, I did have a friendship with Dr. Shabazz over the years. And just fast forward, in 20, I think it was like 2014, when Peter wrote a play called Malcolm, Martin, and Megger in the Hereafter. And we had an opportunity to present that play. We had several readings of the play. And in 2018, we actually had a full production of the play at the Art Theater in Southeast Washington, D.C. And Malcolm's youngest daughter, Malak, she actually was in the play. Malak was in the play, and Malcolm's nephew from Massachusetts came down. And Malak and I kind of, you know, formulated a little bond because, you know, she didn't realize I was from Mount Vernon, and we kind of just talked about everything, you know, and her life, you know, etc. And so you just never know what's going to impact your life and how you're going to reacquaint yourself with individuals who have a, you know, play a significant role in your life. And in 2015 was the 90th birthday of Brother Malcolm. And among the, we had a program at the library, at the Shore Library. And one of our invited guests was Ibrahim Rasool, who was the former, who is now the former South African ambassador to the UN. And Brother Ibrahim mentioned him earlier today. He was actually at our event, you know, back in 2015. And unfortunately, he was the only ambassador exiled from the United States under the recent current administration. But we honor Malcolm on his birthday. We've been doing that for the past 10 or 11 years. And fast forward to 2018, I attended a celebration of the Year of Return campaign launched by the president of Ghana at the National Press Club, and I brought Peter. And so we attended that event, and he met my brother-in-law, Rabbi Kohen, who now lives in Ghana. And coincidentally, I found out that my other brother, Keith Hunter, knew my brother-in-law Kohen from Ghana. And this year, they're celebrating Malcolm, as I'm going to show you in this slide. Excuse me. They're having a two-day event because it was yesterday and today celebrating Brother Malcolm X. And they have an organization called the Malcolm X Institute in Ghana. So I'm just going to show you a couple of slides because what they did, they actually, if I can get this to work properly. Hold on. So they had a two-day, I don't know if you can see it in the board. They had a two-day Malcolm X event. Yesterday, they had unveiling of a statue. They built a statue of Malcolm, a 12-foot statue in Cape Coast, Ghana. And today, they had a conference from 9 to 5 on discussing Malcolm's legacy. So I'll just fast forward here. So this is what they did in Ghana, okay? On the 18th, they had the unveiling of the statue. They had a dinner in his honor. And today was a full day of events at their institute. Here's a picture. I have a video. And they started this, I think, only a couple of months ago. It's another picture of the video of the statue. And in the center is my brother-in-law, Rabbi Kohen. I don't know if any of you have been to Cape Coast, but if you do have an opportunity to go there, you'll probably meet him because he's responsible for giving tours to individuals who come to Ghana. This is their program that they had. They have a fabulous webpage. It's called the Malcolm X Institute. If you have an opportunity to go on there, you can see all of the activities that they did in his honor. And I just want to show you now if you can see it. This is the full statue. They completed the project. The statue is built. And I just can't wait to go. You know, that I had a choice to do this event, to go there for the presentation, but I really can't wait. I'm just so excited. You can see a picture of the individuals involved in that. That's the statue in Cape Coast. Man unveiled that yesterday. Beautiful, beautiful. So that's what we did in Cape Coast. And in Dakar, Senegal, on the 25th, they're having a Malcolm X conference called Journée de la Afrique on the 25th of May. And this is just the flyer of their particular event. So I know of 2 events that I'm involved in on the motherland. So basically, as I said, what we try to do every year, twice a year, on the day of his assassination, we commemorate him, we honor him on his birthday. Today would have been his 100th birthday. And I'm just happy that everybody had an opportunity to come out. Wish you all well and get home safe. Thank you.
All right, we're nearing the end of our program. First of all, let's give Sharon Khan, Dr. Sharon Khan, a hand. Sharon does some heavy lifting for the Positive Black Folks in Action, and you can talk to Peter B about her contribution. Now, we've got, I think, 2 other poets. I've been inspired, I'm sure you've been inspired by some of the poetry we've heard today. And we have 2 other poets who are going to come and close it out. Kenny Carroll, you can come on up, Kenny. Is here. And also, Marini Mataka.
I'm Kenny Carroll. How y'all doing? Okay. No, I've changed since the last time you saw me. Don't worry about it. This first poem comes from the 90s, from when I got tired of how people were treating Malcolm. And it's called Stepping Off on the Explorers. For you, there will be no Audubon ballroom. Only dehydrated cries of your people as they load you into the ground of absurdity where your confused souls hover, too bizarre, berserk, and bewildered to even reincarnate. Wearing Malcolm's image, you move like a rat seeking a hole. You blatantly sell drugs, eat pork, make babies, disrespect elders, put each other down, cut each other up, and give each other away, while hiding behind the Malcolm that you claim is your hero. But what you know is Malcolm's lower self, that self he murdered for holding his manhood hostage. You love Malcolm the hustler, Malcolm the pimp, not Malcolm who transformed himself and changed his people and forced white people to respect and recess their enemy. You tell yourselves that you're two soldiers when you don't even know what side you're fighting on. You love that Malcolm's lower self once had him under control, and you use that fact to excuse yourself. As you know, they sell madness and death to your people with an X on your chest. You speed along the streets, blasting counterintelligence music. I'm sorry.
Instead of being in school, wearing an X-cap, you stand in front of somebody else's property, calling young sisters itches and hoes. In your sweatsuits, with the pants hanging off the edge of your indistinct behinds, you whip out 9mm and compete with the police and who can kill the most black men in the least amount of time. You could deal with Big Red, but even Malcolm's toenails were too heavy for you to comprehend. You could identify with Malcolm's earlier responses to racism, even copy them, but you can't and won't deal with the fact that he came back from the grave. He didn't stay there whining and crying about white people. He burst back into the living instead of self-destructing and forcing others to do the same. He escaped eternal membership with the living dead instead of surrendering his balls to the killers of African people. You don't love Malcolm. You just use his face to try to make people think you down. You don't love Malcolm. You just use his past to justify your fear of facing your fear enemy and your ability to control your own bowels. The Malcolm you loved was the duckling, not the swan. Because loving Malcolm the Swan means changing every aspect of their pitiful little lives into stories that your children can tell without shame. For the love of so-called Malcolm, we got X values, X earrings, X caps, X jackets, X sweatsuits, X watches, X shirts, X air fresheners, X coffee mugs, X lunch boxes, X cups, X tote bags, X rings, and no excuse for why Betty didn't get a damn dime. Wearing Malcolm's image should be a privilege earned and honor bestowed upon those who have proven themselves to be uncompromising in the pursuit of the liberation of our people. Only the clean and the just should be able to wear Malcolm. The productive and the focused, the spiritual and the prolific, the maintainers and the detonators, only the best and the best should be allowed to
leave it behind. You think you're a hustler, homeboy. Yeah, that's what you figured. Even in designer gear, you still a field nigga. You tearing our community down just like the other man. Why don't you grab you a white Gucci sheet and join the Ku Klux Klan? If you don't stand up, my brothers, I'm gonna have to get you told. Like you got a jury girl heart and a sissified soul. Woo! Too many have sacrificed to move us ahead for you to perpetrate gangster and end up dead. Listen up, Bammers. Be the warriors of tomorrow. Free your African mind and your American ass will follow. If I had $1 million, tell you what I'd do. I'd probably be a black poet and not a sucker like you. Right here with this one again, I want to thank Dr. Hunter for inviting me.
Yeah,
my brother, my elders, thank you for being here. It's an honor. When I told Brother Bailey, it's an honor to meet you, he said, yeah, don't over-exaggerate. you are a living legend. God bless you for being here. So, like I said, me and Mataka goes way back. She's been working for me. I got some writers for people in the house. So recently, they asked me and Naomi to read for the Malcolm X celebration at the Blacksonian Museum, National Museum of African American History. But then they did a thing that we knew was sketchy. They started asking us to sing in the poems we would read. After they got the poems, they told me I couldn't read my 2 poems on Malcolm. I could only read my poem I had for Betty Shabazz, and they told Naomi she was uninvited. And so, you know, I was contemplating what I would do, and I talked to Barack, I talked to my brother who organized Sanger Miranda, who organized the reading. I said, you know they're about to get that work if I'm coming down there. And this is the poem that came out of that. This is called Malcolm at the Blacksonian. The subtitle is, Where's Mataka? At the museum, they asked for a Malcolm celebration, but without all that black stuff. Like white people at the old Montego Bay saying, they're not so spicy. Like the gentrifiers along 16th Street who want the color and rhythm of the city without the Malcolm X drummers and that hint of mint in the air. Ever since they stamped Malcolm, they've been trying to figure out how to homogenize his memory, to dilute his message and meaning. They want poems from El Hajj that don't come as calls for revolution, as change and struggle, not so spicy, please. They cannot have Laini Mataka. Hell, the white lady read Mataka's poem 3 times and had nightmares for days. She kept hearing the Maroons coming from the hills to take back the land. She kept hearing Mau Mau with machetes sharp as lightning haunting her dreams. Mataka's Malcolm praise scared her like African women proclaiming their queendom and African men reclaiming their thrones. They scared Mataka and Malcolm at the museum for black folks, where the white folks come from. When the white folks come to see how their ancestors failed to finish us off. White boys from Arkansas, white girls from Texas wearing MAGA hats saying, where's the Malcolm X exhibit? Those who hate Malcolm, who hated him more dead than alive, come to see if they can arrest his spirit. But they be scared of black woman poets who sing of Malcolm. Be scared of Malcolm for having survived state crucifixion. Nothing more dangerous than scared white folks and their scared Negroes, ready to protect their masters and their good government jobs. The people ask me, where is Laini Mataka? I say, she is sharpening her craft and scaring white folks like Malcolm burning down plantations in our minds, and Laini Matata is there fanning the flames. Thank you.
Brandon, you walking out? Go for this. Okay, we got to close out. I invited representatives from Appeal. One thing that Peter had advanced us to do was to identify people who are doing concrete things in light of what Malcolm wants us to do. And this is a representative from Appeal. I'm going to say about 2 or 3 words. Brandon, here you go. Brandon, tell us about you.
Oh, yeah, real quick. Whew. Family, greetings. Just wanted to say a few words on behalf of our Executive Director, Kelechi Bloom. He's actually currently in Harlem right now at a Malcolm X tribute. So we're trying to connect everywhere where they're celebrating Malcolm X in this beloved day for this beloved brother. Excuse my breath, but just wanted to give you greetings. My name is Brandon Green. I'm the Associate Director of Appeal Incorporated. Appeal Incorporated is a Black empowerment, not-for-profit. I think actually there's a lot of, I see a sprinkle of members here. Actually, all those that are Appeal members, could y'all stand up for a moment? Thank you. Thank you. We honor all of you. Dr. Dwara Hunter, a great beloved member as well. We are, the Appeal stands for the Association of People, is an acronym, People for Pan-Africanist Economic Advancement through Leverage. So that's a mouthful, but it does a lot. We have 4 functions. First of all, it's financial education, financial literacy, historical cultural literacy. We do promote Black commerce. We also have a think tank, the Lasana K. Mack, and I'll bring up his name, Ashe. And also we're developing a credit union. So we're on phase 2 in our application process for our federal credit union. So financial education, financial literacy, we actually have a series in the spring that's going on right now that is all about financial literacy. Of course, you know that we as people, we need to make sure that we maintain our personal finances if we're going to at some point pull them together as a community. So that's the first thing that we need to focus on. So that series is ongoing. We do have one workshop that's occurring this weekend on Zoom. Please go to Appeal, that's APPEALINC.org to go to our events to register for this upcoming workshop, which is about home ownership in this chaotic economy right now. So we're going to try to help you with that. Also, we have our historical cultural literacy series that's headed by Mama Makini Owusu, and a beloved member and board of director as well, part of our SEAC committee. And that goes on every winter and fall, winter and summer. So those series are coming up. We have a lot of deep historians. Actually, Peter Bailey was one of our guests, I think the last series, I believe, or maybe 2 series ago. So, so look out for those. We also have our, and she's a part of the Lasana K. Mack think tank. So as you know, Lasana K. Mack, we stand on the shoulders of Lasana K. Mack. He was, of course, you all know the DC treasurer. Back in the day, he was like the actual spook that sat by the door, who was able to get and hold the purse strings of the DC government, but was able to bring his education, bring his knowledge of finance to our beloved organization to help us. And and he stands on the shoulders of Malcolm X, definitely, because he was someone who, from a cultural standpoint, I see our brother with black notes here, who's also a giant too, to bring in all of the different works and poetry that was based on Pan-Africanism from a Malcolm X standpoint. So Lasana K. Mack. And then we also, today, in first and third Saturdays, we have at the Umoja House our Black Buying Co-op, which is at Umoja House, 2015 Bunker Hill Road, Northeast at Washington, D.C. Please, you can get, this is where you can get all your Black manufactured goods. Also, produce from Black farmers, you can get there as well. So please support us on first, from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Like I said, every first and third Saturdays in Washington, D.C., of course, Banneker City. And last but not least, we have our the development, of course, of our credit union. So please be in support of that. I see my Baba Bamboshi in the house. Greetings to you, my brother. Yes. And and we're all always in solidarity with the coalitions like LC PAN. We're part of LC PAN, which is the Leadership Council for Pan-African Nationalism. Groups like the UNIA, ACL, Woodson Banneker Bay Division, of course connected with Luis and Earl Little, and also the United Black Community, which always, every year, produces a Kuzaliwa tribute to Malcolm X, El Haj, Malik El-Shabazz. Had one actually yesterday and was splendid. So I just wanted to, again, thank you all for your attention. Please visit Appeal, APPEAL, Inc.org, and please sign up and you can become a member. Become a member has its benefits. Free workshops, attendance, and also deep discounts for the Black Buying Co-op as well. Oh, and of course, Baba Obi. I thank you for teaching my son. My son was one of the brothers up here, strong young brothers that was one of our poets. And I thank you for that. That was on the front of my mind. So you know how that goes. So I appreciate that. Baba Obi is always a strong educator for our youth. And I'm so delighted that he's a teacher, continues to be a teacher for our young Black warriors. So thank you all for your attention. And thank you, Baba.
Peter's going to have the last word, but I'd be murdered if I didn't acknowledge Carol Movement. And some of you know she's a playwright, and she just completed a play called Clara at Heaven's Gate. It's a one-woman show about Clara Muhammad. And do you have some flyers on that? Oh, did you want to say something, Sister Carol?
Just come on out.
The play is scheduled for June 30th and July 1st at the Arena Stage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because the business didn't have the last word.
I just wanted to say again, I said something that Brother Malcolm, we had in the program that in those different arenas, education. We want to have something maybe in the late fall. So if you are interested in being a participant in either the education or the economics or the political or the psychology or the Pan-African arenas that we had within there, and they were in the please, I'm going to give my email address, and just email me and let me know if you're going to be interested in participating in that. Because we really want Brother Malcolm had concrete things to say in those different arenas, and we want to start moving in that. And also we will be supporting people such as the people here now who've already kind of got things organized. We're going to be supporting them. So it's very important that we get together and start really looking in those different arenas. As I said before, communications, culture, education, economics, politics, psychology, and Black unity. We need to have, if you're interested in one of those subjects, just let us know so that we can begin to plan something for maybe the late fall. And my email is Alfonso P. A-L, not P-H, A-L-F-O-N-Z-O. A-L-F-O-N-Z-O, Alfonso P. Bailey @gmail.com. Just send me that with how I can contact you. Because we really want to start, like that brother just gave a classic example of serious economics of doing what they're doing. And we want to do that in all the different fields under the guidance of what Brother Malcolm truly believed in. And he told us that in person. I was going to hear him say that over and over and over again. And that's it, y'all. I'm so glad you came out.
No, there's one other thing that we have to do. Our hope was that we were going to have some books by Professor Bailey available. They're not here, but tell them the books that you have and how they can get a copy of your books.
Okay, well, they can contact me through that same email did I say the email?
Yes.
Alfonso P. A-L-F-O-N-Z-O, alfonso.bailey@gmail.com. The first book is called Witnessing Brother Malcolm X, the Master Teacher. That's a memoir. That's a memoir about how I got involved with Brother Malcolm, what he meant to me, what he meant to those of us who were working with him. The second book is called Brother Malcolm X's Strategic Pan-Africanism. Brother Malcolm was a very strong Pan-Africanist, and he believed that the fate of people of African descent is directly dependent on a working relationship between people of African descent in North America and people of African descent on the continent. That if we can get together and work with each other and support each other and push each other, then people of African descent in other continents, will automatically almost get a raise. But we got to do it. Those of us in North America, those of us on the African continent. And thanks, brothers and sisters, for coming out.
Oh, hold on. We got one other thing. Someone pointed out that we had not mentioned the members of the Positive Black Folks in Action. Oh, yeah. You've met Ibrahim Mukman. You've met Peter Bailey, Dr. Jawara, Keith Hunter, Josh Myers, David Dennison. Okay, David's over here, and Janita.
Sharon.
Oh.
Dr. Sharon Cook. Sharon is the only woman in our group.
I should have read the list instead of
Sharon right now is only what we need more women in our group. We call ourselves Positive Black Folks in Action.
But she doesn't take any stuff from the brothers. So okay. Thank you very much for coming. And
We didn't wish Brother Malcolm a happy birthday. We didn't say happy birthday.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
Before you leave, the purpose of this was to honor and celebrate Brother Malcolm X. So before we leave, we need to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Which version we gonna do? Yes, ma'am. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
and I'm going to say it, I don't think he wants to do this, I'm going to say it. He recently had a kidney transplant. And he's doing very well. And I told him, I said, now when you play the Congo drum, don't go crazy. It's only been 6 months ago that happened. So you still try to, we got to hope things are going cool. But he loves to play the Congo. He's been doing it since he was about 5 or 6 years old.
Say something to me. You already get it.
What I was saying.
Point to the right.
I appreciate it. Salam.
Salam.
Take this.